To Gratitude Happy Hour. We're focusing on healing emotionally after trauma. And trauma can be different things. It can be illness, it can be a loss in your life, either through death, divorce, separation, whatever that looks like for you. And today I've invited a very dear friend of mine on with me who is a medium and deals with this on a daily basis with helping people and explaining to them that life does go on after the physical body is gone. And we're going to bring Robert Painley on in just a minute. First, I want to welcome you and ask you to go to our page, Enlightened World Network, if you haven't done so yet, and like that page. When you like that page, you'll be notified every time we go live. And we do that quite a bit, actually. We have meditations every day. We have Sunday events that happen. So we're very active, and we want you involved with everything we do because it's all to shine our light out into the world and spread the word about what's out there for you to get answers. And that's what this show is about. It's about just discussion of getting answers. We're not doing readings. We're not, this time we're not really taking any questions from the audience unless you want to type something into the comments. And then, maybe something related to the topic that we're discussing, and Robert may answer that for you. So with that being said, I want to introduce Robert Painley. Robert, welcome to Gratitude Happy Hour.
Hi, Teri. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. And I've been very excited about having you on for this topic. I've covered grief a bit in these sessions, in these weekly shows, but this is a different flavor, isn't it? When you're bringing messages to a loved one from someone that has left their physical body and really showing them that that's not the end of that person. That's actually a beginning, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, I have so many stories from so many, hauntings that I've been to and things. So things I do want people to understand is sometimes this is about healing the person on this plane, healing the people that are watching this video now. But sometimes the work that I do is also about healing the spirit that hasn't quite crossed yet and trying to make sure that their soul is healed and that they can move on as well, even though they may not be, bothering somebody, but I come across their soul and they're lost for whatever reason. Maybe they committed suicide or they were killed in war or something happened to them. Sometimes they didn't know that they had passed. And so we get into some of those that, how is a medium that we do not only heal those here in the living with loving messages from the other side, but also heal souls that can't quite cross, because there is a little bit of a difference sometimes when I'm doing this type of work. And sometimes it's both. Sometimes it is helping those in the living, but also helping that person that's related to them and then moving them on as well and having, a really win-win-win situation as far as everybody getting to be where they need to be and the souls going on for their own spiritual journeys.
That's quite a ministry, Robert, when we think about it, because I also have encountered some that haven't moved on.
Sure.
And I always tell them, it's time for you to go to your next adventure.
Sure.
But I know that there are those energies that somehow get stuck and don't know how to move on.
Absolutely.
So it is a great ministry that's provided, isn't it?
Correct. I think so. One example I could give there is I went to a home and they were having a lot of trouble in this home. So I will tell all the people that are listening here and watching that I'm going to use different names sometimes and stuff because some of these people may be listening and I want to respect their privacy as well. So this one happened to be in Hollywood, Florida, and there was a family that was having spirit activity for quite a while, and nasty spirit activity where it was almost it was influencing family members to say and do things that they would not normally do. It was a very strong spirit. And when I got to the house, one of the things that I found was that this spirit had some type of depression. He felt like he was I will say, he had hobo energy around him from like the 1930s, 1940s, where he came to South Florida, but he was mentally unstable. And I'm not a medical doctor, I won't diagnose what his issues may be, but let's just say he was not very friendly. He had found this place where he called home. It was an attic that no one could get to in this home, and there was no entrance to it. And when I went to the home, I know I needed to get into that space. And when I got there, there was a vent from the bathroom that would go up into that area, but it was the only way that you could get anything there. So I tried to sage that area. So I tried to get some sage up in there. And the gentleman, that homeowner, was with me and said, you can't get up in there. And I said, I'll try. So I started to get some sage up in there. And I did it for about a minute. And all of a sudden, the motor that hadn't worked in 15 years started to operate and started to suck the smoke up in there. And this entity that was up there really kind of didn't know me, was upset with me, didn't want to go. There were so many aspects of him not wanting to leave, but it was actually a matter of explaining to him that he has a further purpose in life, and that he was suffering. I could feel the suffering that he was going through, and the mental instability of not understanding, not trusting, not loving, it was only going to get worse, and he didn't want to be that way. So I managed to get him to understand the consequences to how he's acting, got a couple of spirit guides through to actually just take him and move him on. And you could feel immediately how much lighter the house was. And it was the right thing to do, both for the family that was there, but more so for the spirit who was just lost, because this family would have moved on to another location. They were actually fed up with this location, wanted to move, but and it was kind of pending what I was able to do with the spirit. But once it moved on, they've never had another situation there. And I know I could see the spirit cross. And once he did, there were no issues. And I know that he's on to a better place. He could go on and do and learn and have his mind and soul healed when he reached the other side. So it's just beautiful to be able to do that type of work, both for the living and for the spirit that was troubled and couldn't find their way and didn't trust the way home, and getting to understand what he needed to do. And it was beautiful. It was very nice. And one of those things that still makes me extremely happy about what I do on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's rewarding. It's
It
rewarding
is very
to
much so.
do that. The thing that I love about it is you're bringing comfort. And when you can, without a doubt, tell somebody that their loved one is communicating with them, something happens, doesn't it? A shift
Absolutely.
in that person.
Yes. It's funny because you don't know people's reactions when you tell them something. I've had situations before where I've had really positive reactions to having somebody from the other side join us in a meeting, and it always surprises me because you called me, you wanted to hear from people, and then I managed to get through to them, and now you don't want to hear the messages that they're getting. Surprises me sometimes. So be careful what you ask for. But there's also very good messages and healing messages that come from that all the time. And I went to see one client one time, and I was driving to visit the client. And again, I'll keep names changed here. So I went to go see my client Melanie, and while I was driving up there, I had an old lady that was coming to me, and I could see her going through the turnstiles in Ellis Island. I could see the big black hat and the turnstiles, and her going through the lines trying to emigrate to this country. And she was telling me secrets and lies. And so I got to see my client, Melanie, when I got there. And I said, look, I had this lady with me. I think she's your grandmother. And she just told me today is going to be about secrets and lies. So it started out with her coming to this country. And what she's telling me is that she was in an arranged marriage situation in Europe. She came to the shores, and the first thing she did was change her name so they could not find her. And once she couldn't be found, she could go on and have her life as she wanted to in the way she wanted to have it. So it's both brave of her, but still, a change of something, of how life was supposed to be for her. But then she had to keep that hidden the rest of her life, or at least for a very short period of time when she got here, so that she couldn't be found. So it started with that process. And then I went through a series with her of things that happened in her family. And there was sexual abuse in the family. There was organized crime in the family. There were other things that were going on here. And my client was very upset with her mother because the mother did not protect her. And she was, from the sexual abuse that was going on, the mother did not protect her. She was so mad and angry at the mother for not protecting her. But the mother's message to me was, look, it's like, it seems like you want an apology. Yes, I want an apology. And the mother's telling me she's not getting one. It's like, and the message from the mother was, this really, she was being beaten and abused and everything else in this relationship as well. She did the best that she could for the situations and the circumstances that were there, and to focus. And she wanted her daughter now to look at the situation through adult eyes, not through an 8-year-old's, just through a child's eyes, and not being protected by mommy, but now as a grown woman, understanding how she had no power. She had no money, no credit cards, no life of her own, no job, no training, no education. She couldn't go and do anything other than this marriage and try to do the best she could to protect her daughter. So, the message coming out of the situation was, look at this and put the blame where it actually belongs, on the people who were abusing you, not on me for not trying to protect you. I did the best I could. And that situation changed her point of view of her mom and gave her a different relationship in death that she never had in life, so that the memories of her mother could be changed, and the healing could begin. And it really was about the abuse, not about not being saved or rescued or something from somebody who actually did not have the power or the ability to be able to do that. So it's just a matter sometimes of just change of focus when I do this, and getting the messages from the other side, get people to look at the circumstances in a different way and from a different perspective than they are, so that they can begin to heal. And I think this is one of the prime examples of this type of healing endeavor that we as mediums go through, that bring huge change in people's lives. And I'm proud that I get the ability to be able to do that, and that that they're very good on the other side by being able to give me these types of messages to pass on. It's a privilege, and really an honor when I get to do that and help change somebody's life for the better. That's really nice.
Yeah, I love that story, Mark, and I love that you were able to bring that closure, because when we have a trauma such as childhood abuse, there's so much stuck emotion. Right. And we don't know what to do with that. We don't know how to deal with it. Yeah. So the fact that you were able to bring her that type of closure with that is absolutely beautiful, because it frees her now. She doesn't have to be chained to all of that huge heaviness that was there surrounding it.
It's an ability to look at your emotions in a truer sense sometimes, because we do get stuck on things that are our perception of the way that things were or ought to have been and might have been or should have been. But the reality is that they weren't. And you need to look at sometimes it's a kick in the butt. When I come to see somebody, it's kind of a reality check that you're looking at this from the wrong perspective. And I don't know these people, but spirit does, and their relatives do, who were involved in this, so they can provide that information. That's what I do in my life coaching work. As an intuitive life coach, is one of the things that I can go help somebody. Not only am I able to look at that from a professional point of view, and having 25 years of international work experience behind me to go and help somebody in their job or in their career or in their life, but getting the messages from spirit, because they can't hide from that, and they can't. And then the spirit is going to be wants their highest good. We've got spirit and spirit guides and things and people on the other side that want their best, have their best intentions at heart. So they want to try and do whatever they can to make sure that everyone here on the plane here get their as much happiness as they could possibly derive from this time on this plane. So working with spirit in this way to try and give some additional insight to what they should be doing, it's extremely helpful. And my clients on the intuitive life coaching side of what I do really find that beneficial. So I'll do that for individual clients, but some people actually had me go into their office space to kind of help read people in the office. What energy am I getting from office to office to office? And sometimes it's not great energy. And I've had things that I've discovered about people while I've been there, that they're doing to the company or shouldn't be doing with corporate funds or things of this nature that, I'm able to sense and feel on there. And it turns out to be true. So it's all helpful with the energy. So there's many ways to use this gift to help people. Sometimes it's business owners, sometimes it's people, and sometimes business people have there's a healing process for people that work for them. Some of these people have worked for people for 20 years, 40 years, consider them members of the family. But apparently sometimes that's not reciprocated by people that are working there. But most of the time, we get to deal with people who really want to hear and have those healing messages. And we've worked on a case where that happened. And you can, I don't know if you want to tell that story, but that was one where Teri and I went to see somebody who was seeing hallucinations, but felt that they were real, and was seeing things. And they showed me what this woman was actually seeing, and to her, they were real. They were actually what was there. They showed me what she was seeing, how she was seeing it, and and we found out that a lot of this, the land had to be healed that the home was on. And Teri was instrumental with me, helping me to make sure that we cleared the land that was there, and got some great messages for them. But working with them and making sure that I was being told from spirit that it was a medication issue, that they needed to go back and talk about medication that someone was on. And I did get a lovely 2-page letter after the fact where, they did change up the medication and these types of hallucinations stopped and made the life better, because that, again, the healing was between a husband and wife there, where she was having difficulty and he didn't know how to help her. And when you don't know how to help somebody, sometimes that leads to anxiety and negative emotions in a relationship. When you can't help somebody and you want to try so badly to help them and you love them so much and you can't make a difference or a change. But one little different piece of information can be instrumental in changing the dynamic of that relationship. And that was the case here, which was lovely. And another one that was.
Yeah, it's that fear of the unknown.
Absolutely.
When we don't know what's happening, there's a fear that just comes up. There's no real controlling that.
Right.
So getting the facts was very good in that case. Well, in all cases, but especially in that case,
Correct.
To really see what was going on. And yes, there were spirits there, but it wasn't what was tied into what she was experiencing.
Correct. And then you can deal with the other things, but usually they're going to show you what is the most urgent thing that needs to be healed in this spot, in this space. What can we do? Because once you're then grounded back in reality, you can deal with other things. But if you're not grounded or have a solid footing, in reality as we perceive it, then that needs to be healed first before you can look at these other things that are going on. Because a lot of the spirit activity there is also familial related and loving. Some of it's loving energy, but when you're not in a good space, you can take that or perceive that loving energy maybe in a different way. It could scare you, or it could change your opinion, or make you afraid of the messages that you're receiving in your dream state, or maybe just in visions that you're seeing in a home.
Right. Robert, do you find that it's sometimes more difficult to help people whose loved one passed quickly than someone who was maybe anticipating the death happening from an illness or whatever? To me, it's those quick deaths, those that was totally unexpected, that it's harder to help heal the ones left behind.
I don't typically like to see clients who haven't healed from a loss, because usually I'll go to see them in their home and there's so much sorrow and sadness and angst and anger maybe about the passing, that it's hard to get through all of that emotion to get and receive messages from the other side. Sometimes it's pea soup instead of chicken noodle or just chicken broth. Or it's hard to get through all that muck to try and get through what you really want to try and help them with. But but it's funny, sometimes someone will pass and I will tell the person before, oh my God, I'm so sorry that so-and-so passed, and they didn't know yet. I was like, oops, sorry, because they came through very quickly and their energy was so strong that I could go and work that way. Or sometimes I've been with people where I don't get them, and it took me a year and a half maybe before, people have to understand that what we do as mediums, it's not an exact science. And if the spirit doesn't have anything to say, I can't make spirit come talk to me. If they have something to say, they'll be there. But there's nothing wrong with you, and there's nothing wrong with them if they don't come through. Understand that it's not that they didn't love you and they don't want to give you great messages, or they don't want to give you loving energy or anything. They may not be able to where they are. They may be learning their way on the other side, getting the information that they need to heal their soul. And they may have things going on with their soul that you weren't aware of while they were here on this plane. So you don't know what that is, but never take it personally if you don't get a message from a soul during a reading. You usually get in a reading what you need, not particularly what you want. out of the reading. So, and I always caution people. I've been at readings where I've got maybe 20 relatives have come through, but the one person that they didn't want, that they wanted to come through so desperately, and the reason that they called me was the one I'm not able to get. And quite frankly, as a medium, the harder I try, it hurts the connection sometimes. I'm trying so hard and I'm trying to focus so much that I lose my connection, right? And I said, look, maybe 6 months from now, let's do this again. When you got all the messages that you needed, these 20 people came through, beautiful messages. Take that for what it is, and we'll try this again 6 months from now. Or if I get something in the interim, I'll do what I can and let you know. But I don't try and force it anymore. I don't think that you really can't. You
can't force it. I have a funny with that too. I was bringing a message to someone. She came to me to reach her loved ones, and she had in her mind who she wanted to reach, and it was somebody different that came through. And she was like, I don't want to hear from him. I'm like, I'm sorry, I have no control over this. So we do have those funny moments, don't we? Where, I mean, I couldn't laugh. I'm just like, I'm so sorry. I can't control who's here.
And they have to understand it is sometimes very funny for us, because I've had some that were nasty, but they keep their personality on the other side. I'll get some that were hysterical, just great energy to work with, and I've had some, telling me flat out. I asked one time whether it was with a client, and I had the client wanted to know whether or not they had a half sibling someplace, because they had heard that there, through the family tree, that there was some shenanigans going on 30 years before. And I said, well, let me ask. And I get, none of your business. Okay, okay, gotcha. I won't pry any further. And a couple of times I've tried to go around. Well, only ask grandma, and they'll shut me down. They'll cut off my energy, and I'm not getting the answer. But they'll usually provide a way. In this case, the gentleman said, "Look, I already come to her in her dream state. Ask her to come through. I'll give her the answer, but I don't want, this is my personal stuff. I will let her know directly." Fine. Gave her the message. I don't need to probe any further. So you never know, how that's going to come through. And, that was nice. So at least he addressed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then sometimes I think what people, some of the great loving messages that I've had in the past really do, you alluded to someone who just passed. And I had a client from Miami who called me, and she had an 18-year-old son who had just passed 2 weeks before. And again, I don't like to do them that early, but she was in tears and on the phone, and I couldn't avoid it. And I said, sure, I'll do what I can, but understand that sometimes it doesn't work that way. So I went down to the home. And when I got there, usually I go and I kind of introduce myself, and I kind of gain the feel of the room and stuff. But I was told to walk straight, hi, nice to meet you, walk straight back into the house and walk into a bedroom. And she had all of stuff boxed up already. All of her son's things were boxed in her room. She couldn't look at them. It was too hard for her. And so I walked into the room, and I said, someplace in here he's telling me to come to a skateboard. I'm assuming this is your son. But he's talking about a skateboard. Where's a skateboard? And she said, it's in a closet behind you. I said, do you mind if I open the closet door? So I opened the closet door, and sure enough, there's a skateboard. It's the only thing that wasn't in a box in the entire room. And so I got the skateboard, moved it in front of me, and I said, and she said, well, is he saying anything to you? I said, yes. And he's talking to me. And I'm like, I can't tell your mom that. I can't tell her that. And she's crying. She said, please tell me everything. Please tell me. And, but against my better judgment, I said what he's telling me was to say that she used to yell at me all the time while I was on that skateboard. And so I told her, I was like, he's telling me right now that he used to yell at you all the time when you rode the skateboard. And she started crying. And now she felt bad that she yelled at him all the time, that she yelled at her for being on the skateboard. And they were downtown Miami and thought that he was gonna get hurt by a car or something. And so and I'm like, I can't tell her that. I can't. She's like, tell me. Like, I cannot tell you this. And she said, please, Robert, just tell me. And I said, he's saying it can't hurt me now. And I'm waiting for this horrific reaction from her. And she stopped crying, and it waited about 10 seconds. And all of a sudden she bust out laughing, thankfully for me. And she burst out laughing. And she goes, that's exactly what he would say to me. He was a smart ass from the word go. And that makes perfect sense. I said, well, this is what he's doing. So that made her, so a lot of what I do is, this is the validation part of this for somebody. They know that I'm talking to somebody, their loved one, and they know that I'm right, with them at that moment. And then he said, there's a bag of rocks. Tell my mom to get the bag of rocks. I'm like, okay, whatever. Again, as mediums, we hear a lot of things that are interesting. And so I said, could you have a bag of rocks someplace? She said, yeah, I do. It's in my bedroom. I said, could you go get it? She brings the bag of rocks back, and I said, in here, he's telling me there's a blue rock. Comes out of the rock, and there's one blue rock in it. And she said, he's telling me that he wants you to make this a piece of jewelry and remember him with this piece of jewelry. And she said, this was his necklace, and he lost the setting. He lost it out of the setting and put it in this thing. Like, he wants you to make a necklace out of this so that you'll always keep him close to your heart. Started crying again, and it was a lovely message. And then finally, so she was having some lovely messages from her son. And then I saw her son in spirit sitting on a curb, and he had his arms outstretched like this, just on the sides. And in one hand was this swirling ball of light and energy and stuff. And I have no idea what that is. Never saw that before. And I'm looking at this, and he goes, I'm explaining to his mother what I'm seeing. And she said, what is that? I said, I have no idea. Let me ask him. So I asked him, and the message came, and he said that this was a child that she did not have. There was a pregnancy that she had before him that was not brought to term. And this was the soul of that child. And the message was, your son is with that other soul. And she started crying again. Because she didn't bring that child to term, she worried for 20 years what happened. She was very distraught. And again, I'm not a mother. I don't know that feeling of having a child that doesn't, come to full term. So I don't know what that feeling is like. But I got the feeling from all the energy from the soul and from this mother who was anguished about this and wondered, because her son would have had a brother all this time and everything else. But now she knew, and the message was, you're going to see the soul again when you cross to the other side. And that was a incredibly healing message for her. So much so, she told me that ruined her life. That miscarriage that she had ruined her life, that she would always wonder what happened, wondered about the child the entire life. Now that she knew that her son was with this other soul, that she could move on now, that she was comfortable, that the other soul was at peace, and she therefore could be at peace. And therefore, she actually wound up writing a book about it and wrote a screenplay about it. And it has changed her life to get that message from her son. So some of these messages that we get as mediums are incredibly powerful. And again, from my perspective, I'm not involved from an emotional state. I do get the emotion sometimes of the people involved. And sometimes it's overwhelming. I'm not a big crier, but sometimes I'll be reduced to tears because the love is so intense and the emotions are so intense. But this was a message that was so healing and so profound that it changed everybody's life that was there. Her son was so happy that he could give her this message. She was happy to hear and know that soul was saved and there and waiting for her when she crossed, and that her son was safe and on the other side. So all beautiful messages, and it changed her life, and it put her on a different career path on this plane. So all these wonderful things that came out of that, a two-hour meeting. And it changed my life, because of the benefit that we as mediums get from that type of karmically. I just think it's absolutely amazing. I just feel that, there's something wonderful that happens to a medium when you get that kind of message.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that story. That is very powerful. And it brings up the point. A lot of people who have lost someone, they're left in their grief with the sense of guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Could I have done something more, to help this person?
Absolutely.
Especially, I think this comes out a lot when it's a suicide. And there's that guilt, that survivor guilt. Could I have done something? Could I have seen the signs? Could I have helped this person in any way? And
Sure.
They want to hear from their loved one that did this and that passed.
Sure.
And it gives them that release from that guilt if we can bring those messages. Yes. And say, there wasn't anything you could have done.
Well, I think this is a good time too for us to tell people some generalities about healing. I think some of the overarching, some of the things that I hear all the time when I go to visit a client are, did I do the right thing by burying mom in the red dress? let me just say, mom doesn't care. Just on the other side, the red dress isn't important to mom, and so many people find anguish in these minute decisions. Was it the right prayer? Was it the right psalm? Was it the right dress? Was it the right suit? All of these things that we care about on the physical plane that really don't matter when they reach the other side. I mean, do what you can to maybe honor their wishes if they have, if they have something specifically that they'd like to have done. But if you don't do it, are unable to do it, please stop the guilt. Stop. I mean, guilt is a useless emotion. It stunts your spiritual and your emotional growth, and quite frankly, it prohibits you from healing. And when they get to the other side, they don't want you to suffer. They don't want you to be in anguish. They don't want all these negative emotions. They only want what's best for you. So please get out of your own heads, get out of your own way on some of these issues that I'm sure Teri has run into as well. But I get these questions all the time, and sometimes I apologize if I come to meet you in the future. I apologize in advance, but sometimes I've heard them so much, and I see how people get so bogged down in the minutia of, were they buried in the right place, in the right thing, or would she like the casket, or did she want to be cremated, or anything like that? That really doesn't matter. Just know that those souls are with you, trying to get you to have your best life possible. That's what you need to know, and know that they don't. Whether or not they were buried with a particular piece of jewelry, is really not, not something that they're very worried about on the other side. Let's just put it that way. It really doesn't matter to them. So just keep that in mind, that you're not making wrong decisions. Do the best you can. Try and honor their wishes if you can. But they understand that life happens, and things that you may not have control over, but you can't change your life or worry about stuff of that nature. They're trivial, and they don't mean anything on the other side, really. So please give yourself a break and let go of that anguish and sorrow, and just think about the positive aspects of your interaction with this person while they were on this plane. It's the positive messages and what you learned from this soul on this plane that really is important, and that love that carries across are the things that really matter. The rest of it is all human, superfluous nonsense, I shall say.
It really is. And I know when I connect with those on the other side, it's always that love that comes through.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times they'll tell their loved ones, nothing else matters. It's just that love that's taken with you after you leave the physical existence. And I think that is so beautiful to bring that message to the loved ones so that they understand too that, maybe there were some issues between you that, wasn't so pleasant, but none of that matters after you're gone. It really doesn't.
Again, we've talked about physical things, but you're absolutely right, Teri. When you talk, sometimes words hurt, and people think of the last conversation that they had with somebody, and sometimes that is incredibly emotional and incredibly powerful, and they can't get past that. And I'm going to give people an example of this, even in my own home. So my husband, Mark, I don't get to read for Mark most of the time, because people who are closest to me, I don't get things for them, because I'm supposed to experience my life with them in a way and not know everything about it, so I can have the experiences and my soul's journey clean as well. So I don't get to read for him much. And in this instance, I was doing my prayers one night, and Mark's mom is getting older, and she's had some difficulty in where she was living by herself. So we moved her to a facility that was assisted so that she could have a little bit of help. But she fought us, and there were some difficulties in trying to make that move since she was in one place for so long. And some of those difficulties were hard on Mark, obviously, changing locations and having to take, you're changing that dynamic of, have a parent raising you, and now you're trying to take care of the parent, is a tough dynamic to go through, and what we were going through here. And so we moved her into the different facility, and while we were going through that process, I got a message from Mark. And so I had Mark come. He was asleep in the other room, and brought him over to where I was doing my prayers, and said, they're showing me this scene where you're skipping downstairs. You're about 4 or 5 years old, and there's 2 stairs you're skipping down, and they're showing me your mom, and she's behind a counter, and she's making sandwiches and talking with customers. And she said, that's her sandwich shop. When I was a kid, my parents owned a sandwich shop, and that's the sandwich shop. I said, your dad is over by a front window, and he's making sauce, and he's doing things. He's talking to customers on a whole different end. He goes, that's how that was set up. I'm explaining this entire scene to him and who he's interacting with and how. And I said, So the only thing that they're telling me is they're telling me about a name named Johnny. Who's Johnny? He said Johnny was my uncle, and Johnny died years before I met you. I don't think I've never mentioned Johnny to you, uh, but Johnny was my mom's brother. I said, well, your mom's mumbling on occasion, and I just want you to know that's Johnny, and Johnny is telling me that he's talking to her. So he's trying to, he's talking to her, preparing her, and keeping her, engaged, and so that she feels both part of this plan, and she knows, he's going to be there to help her transition when it's her time. Not that it's imminent at any time, but there for her, and he's around, and she's got spirit around her, and she's sensing and feeling him, and dreams about him. So this is, how we in our own life need to look and be open to our dreams and our possibilities, and take those messages that you're trying to give. But the true message here was, remember your mom as she was. Don't remember her in the state now, and have the memories of her, because this isn't who she was in life. For 80 years, she was a completely different individual. She was warm and engaging and happy and a businesswoman and all this. And that's, she's lost some of that because of her physical and, aspects of her life and things of that nature now. So it's just remember her how she was. And the message from the other side was, treat her that way, remember her that way, instead of the trouble sometimes that you have working with a challenging set of circumstances that you're in now. Lovely message from Spirit. And again, that's one of those things that I'm so glad that I am able to do what I do to help put that in perspective for other people. And it's a story for other people who are, I'm of a certain age, and people who have reached a certain age that may have to deal with parents in that way. You need to look at your parents as the people who raised you and those wonderful times that you had, not maybe when they have dementia or Alzheimer's and they require a lot of special care, and it's challenging because you have other children and you're trying to balance work and life and their needs. And so just kind of look back a little bit and remember who they were and who they actually are, but for the circumstances that they're in, and give yourself a break. Life is challenging enough without putting undue pressure on yourself for circumstances that are not within your control. And, just try and do the best that you can. No one's blaming you. And I've worked with spirits on the other side who, when they cross, they come back and sometimes they will apologize for, I made my daughter's life so difficult when I was passing. She took 2 years off of work and she did this, and just let her know I thank her so much for doing that. But they weren't able to say that in the physical plane, but now that they've crossed, they're able to say that now. It's lovely to be able to give that message, and or that the parents were proud of that. Sometimes I don't get that message, but many times I do, and that's always a lovely message, because I don't care how old you are. I mean, I'm in my 50s now, but there was nothing better, or still nothing better. If I do something in my life or have something great happen, I call my dad, and I used to call my mom when she was here, and you're just getting, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. It was always lovely. I don't care who you are. I think you always want that acknowledgement from your partner or your parents or your peers or something. Is always a nice acknowledgement, and getting that even from the other side is powerful, and that happens very, very much both for Teri and other mediums that we know. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a beautiful moment when you can bring that type of message through.
Yes, absolutely.
And also, what I get a lot of is that they never said those words enough of I love you or I'm proud of you. So that also helps that person that has lost their loved one to know that they were seen, that they were acknowledged.
Absolutely.
And that they can then be more at peace with the fact that this person that left them was so important, and maybe was busy in their life, maybe had distractions and didn't have or take the time to acknowledge them in that way. And now they Robert, I know you've been doing this most of your life. Can you explain how your journey began with
Sure. I was 4 years old, and I don't know why, but one day I looked out the back bedroom window and I saw people out back. And I grew up in a very rural area, and it was all woods and cornfields back behind the house. And I had my onesie on at 4 years old, and I just, in the middle of summer, just walked into the back and just walked in the woods and met this gentleman who was dressed very strangely. He was dressed in all kinds of raccoon furs and mink fur, and the wind was blowing, and you could see all these weird, he was covered in animal skins and just blowing in the wind. And I'd never seen anything like this at 4 years old, obviously. And but he was fascinating. We didn't come very close in contact. He was maybe stood maybe 20, 30 feet from me, and we never spoke like we're speaking now. But I knew what he was trying to say, and we kind of talked that way, and that started my journey. And every now and again, I would walk back in the woods, and sometimes I would see Native American children, sometimes Native American warriors, but always this shaman who it turned out to be. I didn't know at the time, but he was a healer and a medicine man in the woods behind the house, and he knew he could communicate with me, and I always felt very protected by him. And so it started from 4 to about 6, 7 years old, where I felt very protected, and I would just go back. Years later, I find out that my parents were looking out the window, wonder what their kid was doing, standing in the middle of the woods, talking to nobody. I'm seeing these people, but they're seeing nothing. Uh, but so, but from about 9 or so on, I started to see people. I was on a bunk bed on the top bunk, and I would see people, a line of people out from my bunk bed out the door. There may be 10, 15 people in a line waiting to talk to me, and it was scary because I would see them as I see, you on the screen now, and just like it's just flesh and blood standing next to the bunk bed, and see them from about, breastbone up, basically, and they would start to try and talk to me, but I couldn't hear at that time. So they would start to try and talk to me, and they were, they would say, and there was just, all I would see was nothing, not hearing anything. They would try and do it again, and they would start to maybe get frustrated with me because I'm not hearing them, and they would start to contort a little bit more with their mouth as they're trying to yell at me. It scared me, so I'd cover my head up, right, because I don't want to see them anymore. And I never left that. As soon as I crawled into bed at night, I would never leave that bed. I wouldn't leave that bed because I knew that I had to cross this line of people, and I didn't want to do it. But when I was a little bit older, my grandfather came one night, and it was the first time that. So he shook my leg, and I rolled over and said, "Hi, Grandpa." He's like, "Hi, Bobby. Now tomorrow, your mom is going to be very upset, and she's going to be, very sad. So, just be a good boy, and just let her know that we'll all see each other again one day." "Okay, Grandpa." We'll talk for about 2 minutes. He said, "Turn over now and go back to sleep. I love you. I love you." And he left. About 4 hours later, my mom walked into the bedroom and said, "Grandpa died last night." And she was crying, and I said, "I know, he was here." And she said, "What?" And I said, so she got my 2 other brothers out of the room and said, "Tell me everything that happened." So I told her that whole story of what Grandpa had said, and she said, "Just don't tell anybody that story." She was afraid. Years later, come to find out that she was afraid that I was going to be known as the kid who sees dead people, or that I was going to be teased in some way. So she didn't want me to say what I was actually seeing. But then, so I kind of turned off the gift. I was raised Roman Catholic, and so I spent a lot of time. I started to get negative energy and positive energy, and I didn't know what to do with all that negative energy. So I actually spent a lot of time at the Catholic Church in Mass. I think my parents thought I was going to be canonized at one point because I was at every Mass, being an altar boy. I felt safe there, right? Uh, and it was late, but I always at sleepovers and things would see ghosts. I mean, I'd be playing with my friend and maybe seeing 2 dead people sitting on the couch next to us while we're playing. I knew that, he or she couldn't see them, but I could, and I just never said anything. And then in my 20s, I realized that I could kind of turn off my gift by, if I had, a little bit of alcohol, if I had a beer, or if I had a glass of wine or something, I could knock out my radar. It was the first time in my life I actually got a sound night's sleep, because otherwise I was always hearing or seeing spirit. And since then, it was in my 30s that I finally came to grips that I have to start working with my gift, to start addressing it. I can't hide from it any longer, because no matter where I went, no matter what I did, I would run into spirit. I was traveling international sales around the world. I'd be at old hotels or castles or someplace, always running into spirit, always. And I always felt afraid. And it wasn't until I had a medium who took me aside one day and told me how to make sure that I only dealt with spirits that were in God's light, and how to keep that negative energy away from me and to protect myself, that I felt very, very comfortable. And then from then on, 2 days after that, then I started having all good spirits walking through the house, and I could talk to them. But it changed my life. It changed my gift. But it was the intervention of another medium teaching me how to use my gift, because I basically tried to shut it down all my life because I was so afraid of it. So that, which was a curse for those first 30, 35 years of my life, turned into be a complete and wonderful blessing. And people can tell by the way that I was talking earlier about how I love helping my clients. It has changed my life profoundly in a very positive way as well. And I love the change. I I wish I could have gone back and not gone through that 35 years of it being my mission. My mission is now to make people's homes safe and feel secure and warm. And that's why I love going to their homes and really working with either negative energy or residual energy or ghosts or whatever happens to be there, and making this their sanctuary, because the home should be your sanctuary, a place where you can go and get away from your day and regroup and re-energize and feed your soul what it needs to be fed. You know?
Absolutely. I totally agree. And Robert, I've really talked to a lot of people that have shut down their gifts. And it's out of that fear. It's out of fear of the unknown again.
Right.
You know, like, am I crazy? What is this? I know I've seen angels ever since I can remember, and I've seen spirits since I can remember. I grew up in a house where there was a person there that was not in physical form. And this was an everyday occurrence for me. I saw him. I knew who he was. I talked to him. But a lot of people that are in touch with that gift at an early age do shut it down, don't they?
I
Out
can
of that
imagine.
fear.
And I work with a lot of, I'm sure you probably do too, but I find a lot of my clients happen to be people who are gifted in some way, you know, because they're seeing things in their house and they can't explain it. They don't know what it is. And then I get through that process. They're either empathic, or they do have mediumship ability, or, you know, they may be psychic in some way, or whatever. They are somehow gifted in some way. And, you know, and spirit is drawn to them because of that reason. And they've had this all their life and stuff. So I love helping people like that. But spirit usually provides you with things, I find, even if you shut your gift off. Spirit, you know, I've been in houses where, you know, I'll go into a house, I'm like, somebody here is a medium. And you know, it's like, I think it's your kid. You know, it's like, does your kid have a rock collection? Yes. Well, I find you go in there, it's all black obsidian because it's all absorbing all that negative energy that's around them. But spirit kind of gets them interested in having, you know, the proper types of protection around them, or I'll go into a place and there'll be crucifixes everywhere or something where they just want that protection. And working with 5 and 6-year-old, knowing what that is like, you know. So please, if you have children that are gifted in some way, you know, sure, there may be times when, you know, a child of yours has you know, has imaginary friends. I'm not saying that that's not possible, but there are times when they actually have real friends that are in spirit, or family members that they're actually talking to before the gifts get shut off, where they're, you know, they're 3, 4, 5 years old and they're talking to spirit in a closet, or sitting in a room playing cards with somebody and they're talking. Please don't tell them that there's nothing there. Work with them, try and draw out a little, but call somebody like Teri, call somebody like me, so that we can maybe find out whether the energy is good or bad, because we don't want something nasty around your child. But we do want to make sure that the energy is good, and that who they're talking to and why. Maybe that person is just trying to get a message to you via the child because you shut off your gift, and now the child has this gift and they're trying to get this message to you, but you're not listening. And that happens a lot, you know, where people, I've had a lot of adults that have had dreams, very vivid dreams of their loved ones in some fashion, and they don't believe that the dream is real. Although they've got the answers that they specifically wanted out of that dream, they don't believe that it was real. And then when I go there, I say, they're telling me that you had a dream about them and they already answered this question, and here was the answer. Oh, I didn't think that was real. So, you know, trust your intuition, trust your senses when you're getting these types of messages. And I found that, you know, for me as a clue, if there's a lot of fantasy involved, for example, if you're talking to your father and there's information about, I don't know, the birth of a child or one of your children or your job, or they're giving you this type of advice and there's nothing else around. But if your father's standing there and he's holding his arm around a dragon and he's playing with a ping pong paddle, or if there's something that's kind of fantasy about it, that makes it more dreamlike, because dreams sometimes are imagery that doesn't make sense, but it means something else in your life. But if you're having a one-on-one conversation and interacting with them at a bar or in your home or someplace that you're not sure where you are, that tends to be more than likely something that you're actually dealing with that soul in an area where both of you can be comfortable, or where both your souls can be comfortable. You can't get all the way where they are, but you can meet a nice little happy ground. In your dream state, through astral projection or whatever you want to use to get there, you can get in and see them. And you know, Teri can teach you, or you know, I can teach you how to try and put yourself in that space to be able to have those conversations, because there are tools and I would say tricks of the trade, but there are ways that you can put yourself in a better place, much through like yoga or meditation or something of this nature, where you bring your vibration to a point where you can have a better interaction with spirit in some capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all have this gift.
Absolutely.
We all have it. It's not that there's anything special about me or anything special about Rob. I mean, there's a lot special about you, but it's not that it's just us that can
Right.
do it,
Right.
or, the well-known mediums.
Right.
We all have access to it. It's just tuning in and listening.
And we all have different gifts.
Yeah, we all have different
Your gift
gifts.
is different than mine. You've seen Angel from a very early age. I did not. When I see angels, they come in a different form, and I only get yes or no questions answered when I see angelic energy. I'll feel the energy. I can call on angels when I need to help show a spirit, because I've been tested by souls that let me put it this way. I've had souls that are stuck, and a lot of times, I have to say, they were very religious people on this plane. But when they go to cross, they don't feel that they were actually good enough to go to heaven. So they resist going. And they said, I had an affair on my wife, or, I cheated on my income taxes, or whatever it happened to be, that they feel that it wasn't going to get them into heaven. And they resist going to the light. And so when I get a hold of their spirit and we're talking, it's like, the God that you believed was all forgiving, that you were praying to all those years, is still the same God who's forgiving. You're going to go to the right place, but they sometimes want proof, and which was just funny. And say, show an angel. Okay, so I'll ask the other side to show an angel. I'm like, I can see it. Do you see the angel over there? Yes, I do. Great. Go toward the angel. You'll see. I may call a spirit to help them. I can see the hand there. Grab the hand. The faith that you had in life. Have a little bit of that faith now. Cross to go on to your continue your spiritual journey. And go. And they always do. It's trying to get them to understand, they have this preconceived notion in their mind that they weren't good enough, but they're judging themselves. That's not God's judgment. That is their own judgment of their own, their own less than good qualities they may have had while they were here. But we all make mistakes in life, and they beat themselves up, and they were doing that, and it prohibited them from crossing to a better existence, and or just continuing their spiritual journey. And that too, when I encounter that type of energy and try and get them to understand what they're doing to themselves, and they have this great capacity of faith and of love, but they're beating themselves up, with their own belief system, instead of just having that faith and having that true faith of just being able to go to a better place, going into God's light. And so hopefully, our calling is we're here, that you can do this as long as God leaves you here, and I can do this as long as I'm supposed to be doing this as well. And everybody that does this can continue to do it. But just know that Teri will tell you the same thing that I will, is, there's not one who's a medium who's better than another. It's just we have different gifts. Some people are just able to hear. Some people hear better than I do and hear better than Teri does. Some people see better than Teri does or than I do. And you can't be jealous about somebody else's gift. This is a gift that you are giving. Hone the gift, do what you can with it, use it in a positive way, never in a negative way. It's a gift from God to be able to use to help people, and to help yourself help other people. Just if you look at your gift in that way, in that light, you're never going to go wrong, and you can continue to grow and pray to have that gift grow. And but always ask very, a lot of people that I run into always say, I want to be a better medium. Well, what does that really mean? What do you really want? What do you need? So be very specific when you're asking for things. It's like, I want to be able to hear well, or I want to be able to hear spirit, or I want to be able to astral project, or I want to be able to see my dad in my dreams. Ask very specifically for what you want. Don't leave it very ample, because sometimes you may not like the answer that the universe gives you when you just say, I want to see more, because seeing more could be good things, bad things, and different things, interdimensional things. You never know. You got what you asked for, and then don't complain about it. So, be very careful how you ask and what you're asking for. They're never going to give you anything that is that I don't think that you can't handle. I've never have encountered that situation with my clients or with myself. But you do have to be able, when spirit is starting to push you and move you on that journey, you need to find, you protect yourself, get that inner strength to work with it. and put on your big boy pants and and accept it for what it is. If you're looking to go down this road on this journey, continue on that road. You don't know how, Spirit's there to help you. Ask for guidance, ask for assistance, ask for help, ask for protection. All those things will be given to you on that road. But don't get complacent with your gift, and don't get too cocky with your abilities either. That's not what they're there for. They're there to help other people on their journeys. Okay.
Oh my gosh, I love that, Robert. Yeah, the fact that there's no comparison. Nobody's better than or less than.
Exactly.
We're unique. We're all different.
Absolutely.
And if you, to anybody out there that says, "Oh, I would like to be able to have these experiences," seeing and hearing, look at what your motivation is. Why would you like to do that?
Absolutely.
Is it because you want to help others? That's my total motivation. When I do any type of mediumship or psychic readings, it's always to help that person understand.
Right
and
there.
I think I know that's why you do it as well, Robert. So yeah.
Well, it goes back to that mission of wanting to make sure that their house is a safe haven for them, right? And so, the other things outside of that, but the thing that's sure the question that you get a lot, the question I get a lot is, well, what are the lottery numbers and things of that stage? It's like they want the gift for these kind of reasons, and it's like that's not of interest to Spirit. That doesn't help you in any way, shape, or form on your spiritual journey. So that's why you're not given that information, and why we don't get that information, because finances and this kind of stuff really don't matter to Spirit. It's how we love one another and our interactions with one another, and how I can help Teri on her spiritual journey, how she can help me on my spiritual journey, how we can help you on your spiritual journey. It's all wrapped up on making sure that we get out of our time on this plane, the experiences and the knowledge that we're supposed to get, and the emotional information that we're supposed to get, because you can't get that on the other side. So these are the things that you really want to kind of take advantage of when you're looking at what you're doing with Spirit. Is it the right motivation, as Teri said, and how do you best use that gift to help others?
Yeah, absolutely, Robert. This hour has flown by. So
I had lots more stories too. Everybody's lucky they're getting out with those stories.
You know what that means? We're just going to have you back.
Oh, that'd be lovely. Thank you.
But to those of you who are listening, or who will listen on the replay, I really hope that what we have brought out today is helpful, and that that there are ways to heal emotionally once you've lost a loved one. So many, and grief is different for everyone, but so many people get stuck in some of those emotions because they don't know what to do with them. They don't know how to heal from them. And just hearing the fact that love never dies, your loved one never dies. They're gone from the physical, so it's a different type of energy that you'll be working with, but it's still the same energy of that person that was in their physical body. So I really hope we've given some insight today in that healing process. And so, Robert, if people want to reach you, if they want more information, they want more stories, they want to maybe come to their home and clear their energy, or get in touch with their loved one, how do they do that?
Sure. You can reach me at there's so many ways. So you can reach out. You can reach me on Facebook under Robert Painley. You can reach me through my YouTube channel. Just reach Robert Painley Medium. Google search it, and my YouTube channel will pop up. You can Robert Painley Medium is also a good way to reach me, or you can reach me at rapainley@gmail.com. Are the ways to best reach me.
Okay. And I know you've really been upping your game on your YouTube channel lately. I've seen some of that. So I invite you all to go check out Robert's YouTube, and sometimes funny stuff that he puts on there.
If you want the story, because the story's long, you can also get me at spirit-focus.com as well. It was my webpage, and you can get me there too.
Yeah, sometimes we get just a lot of entertainment from the experiences that we do, and I like that we can use our sense of humor when that happens. So
I like to use what we do as parables, because a lot of what it makes people feel safe that I'm giving somebody else's example, but they can relate to it in their own way, which is very nice.
right, exactly. Robert, thank you so much. And
Thank you for having
yes,
me, Jared.
I will have you on again. Trust
Thank
me,
you.
not a one-time thing. I really appreciate you and love you so much. And thank you for being here.
Love
And
you
I
too.
know that Mark was watching, so hi, Mark. So to all of you out there, I'm on every Tuesday at 5 o'clock, which is happy hour. And who are you grateful for today? That's something I always like to bring out is gratitude. So I hope that wherever you're at, whatever is going on in your life, you can find at least one thing today to be grateful for. Join me next week on Gratitude Happy Hour and look up Robert. He's amazing. So I'll see you all next week. Thanks, Robert. Bye
Thanks,
now.
Jared. Take care.